Hello, hello, everybody. Just get a quick sound check before we begin. If you could just type like a yes or a Y in the chat, just so I know that you hear me. Awesome, awesome. Hey, thanks everyone for coming in. Today is just a webinar that we're going to go over on the FlowTrade platform. My name is Bruce. I am one of the coaches slash mentors here at FlowTrade. I teach the Flow Algo Index along with the block trades, really exclusively in the block trade side of things. I don't want to take too much of your time up, really no more than an hour. The first thing that I want to do is kind of go over the platform itself. I got a few slides that we'll cover, and then we'll look at the platform. And then afterwards, if you have questions or anything, myself, Dan, Mike, Fred, we're all here as well as on Facebook. So thank you for joining here, or I'm sorry, on YouTube rather. So thanks for watching on YouTube as well. And we will get to those questions as soon as we get through the slides and the platform itself. So just starting off first, what is FlowTrade? So FlowTrade is a community of traders with one common goal, and it's to trade effectively and efficiently. We use the Flow Algo Index as our main tool outside of our charts, and the strategies that we use are all similar, so that way each trader knows exactly what each one is referring about whenever they're giving an analysis on some sort of equity or whatever the case may be. Along with the flow index, we use block trades and dark pool trades as another way to identify potential setups that will present themselves throughout the day, especially within that first 30 minutes. That's really where we look for those block trades and dark pools. So with that, let's just get straight into it, and we'll talk about the flow index and explain what it is and how we use it. All right, so what is the Flow Algo Index? The Flow Index is a FlowTrade proprietary algorithm that tracks the big money, computers, institutions, and especially the dark pools in real time. Some of those real time dark pool prints, those do come 24 hours, just like any other platform that you would come across as far as dark pools go. But we do get most of those in real time as they come. And it's in order to give the end user the ability to trade alongside of the smart money, if you will, and not against them, of course. So that data, it's used and it comes directly from the exchange in order for us to give you the most actionable and accurate information. So we take that data and we're able to separate when it's just a normal trade versus a block trade versus a dark pool trade and put it into the flow index and compile it onto the screen. So essentially what you're able to do is see what's going on behind the scenes. So the flow index shows exactly what they're doing behind the scenes, setting up divergent ranges, continuation, or if the algos, institutions, dark pools are in agreement with the price movement. And just before we go any further, I just want to make a key note here. The flow index is not on the same scale as price, and it can't be. So when we're looking at these divergent ranges, the key thing to think about is that just because you see price and the algo cross each other, it does not absolutely mean that there's a divergence set up there. So common questions that we get, I just want to go ahead and hit these up front. How does this make me a better trader? That's a big one that we get a lot. The flow index telegraphs the moves. Just like I said, you were seeing what's going on behind the scenes, essentially. It's not showing you what can happen. It's showing you exactly what the institutions, the computers, just like we were talking about, are doing behind the scenes, eliminating the guessing, speculation, and the big one that it's kind of a no-no word for us is the word hope. Now you know that move before it happens with us. So one of the other things that we do is we do teach and we mentor people as well. So you get experienced traders teaching technical analysis. We're not big on fundamentals. We do have fundamental traders that do know a lot about that stuff, but the main thing that we're looking for is technical analysis. And the end goal is for us to make independent traders. So the one thing that I want to be clear about is we are not an alert service. We don't want you to think that we're going to give you all these alerts. However, when we are entering or exiting a trade, we are in a voice channel where we are talking about that and giving our input. Which brings me to the next point. Is there a chat room? Of course there is. So we have a community that we've built a culture of education for success, not relying on, the one individual person who can tell you exactly when to buy and sell. It's just the community of people. And the reason for that is because we don't want people to come to FlowTrade, take a bad call or whatever entry you're trying to take, and then it goes bad on you, and now you're blaming the person who did it. So that's the goal behind us teaching people how to do it themselves and be able to identify those setups, because it's advantageous for all of us to be able to see the same thing, talk about the same thing, and take the same entries. So if Joe is saying something about Apple, well, I know exactly what he's talking about. And if I'm talking about NVIDIA, well, Joe knows exactly what I'm talking about. So the great thing about our community is everyone's dynamically working together on many different ideas. So instead of having the 3 or 4 different services, all of your tools are all rolled up here. So we have the flow index, we have an option flow, the dark pool and block trades, fly on the wall news, and of course the FlowTrade community, which is a huge part. Along with the mentoring, and all of this is at your disposal in this one platform. Okay, so how do we use the Flow Algo Index? Okay, so we use the Flow Index as a tool of confirmation. It is, like I said, the tool that is telegraphing the moves, giving us the behind the scenes action that's going on. What are those big funds doing, those big computer trading setups that you'll see like in the movie, The Hummingbird Project? If you haven't seen that, I definitely suggest checking that one out. So the first thing that we do when it comes to taking a trade is we check the chart. We want to see what the chart tells us. Do we have a setup that favors the direction that we're looking to trade? Well, that's the number one important thing. So then after that, if it all checks out, the next thing that we want to look at is, what is the flow index showing us? Is it giving us a confirmation of that move? Is it giving us a divergence setup, which we're going to cover? Is it giving us that divergence setup? Or are we looking for that continuation to go? Yeah, exactly, Andy. Confirmation and avoidance. Perfect. So if there's a divergent range, the confirmation or the continuation showing, well, then the trade's good to go. But if it's not, it's kind of one of those things where it's on you at that point. You just have to be aware that the flow index is not with you at that point and that you're trading against the money. So this is one of the flow charts that we use in order to identify a setup and if we want to use it. So with us at FlowTrade, it's easy for someone to talk themselves into a trade. It's easy to say, I want to be in this trade. I want to jump in here and try and get into this. Well, our goal is to talk ourselves out of the trade. So before we even take the trade, we have to identify the trend. And I'm not talking about the trend for the day. I'm talking about the overall trend, the big picture trend. So if it's bullish, then we look for an area of support. If we don't have it, then there's no trade there. So if we do have support, just moving straight down the flow, does the algo agree? If it doesn't agree, we don't trade it. Again, like I said, it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, if the algo doesn't favor the trade that you're in, you're trading against the money. And if all those 2 things line up, then we're taking the trade. Now, in the middle, you'll see that if the trend is sideways, we're not really looking to take any trades against that, because there's a magnitude of things that can happen when we get in that trade, right? There's 3 possible things. It can continue sideways, and as an options trader myself, that's not good for me. It can go up, and if I'm trying to go to the downside, well, now I'm getting stopped out, and it can go down. So those are the 3 potential things that can happen, as we all know. So we just make it easy, and we say no trade when it comes to a sideways movement, unless you're putting on some sort of strategy, of course, like a butterfly or iron condor kind of thing. And then the same rules apply to the bearish side. Are we at a resistance point? If we are, does the algo agree with us? Does the algo agree? Okay, it does. So we're going to take the trade. So this is the flow that we use. Again, like I said, the first thing that we do is we check the chart, and then we verify it against the algo to see what the algo says. All right, how do we use it continued? So there's 3 specific types of setups that we're looking for. We're looking for divergence, we're looking for the continuation, and we're looking for that confirmation. All of these occur throughout the day on whatever equity that you're looking at. You will find one of these setups throughout the day entirely. There is a fourth that we look for, but it's a big picture divergence setup, and we call that trend divergence. And we'll look at example of that when we get to the platform. I know Baba was a really good one from yesterday actually, and we'll check that one out, and I'll show you on the big time frame. Okay, so now this is the meat and the potatoes of it, right? So the number one thing that we're looking for on this this divergence setup here is what is the overall direction of the algo. So we're getting this, we use a trend line, and we use trend lines in the platform to identify these setups. And we're just making sure that we're still making the lower lows, right? So if we come to a point of resistance, as long as this is moving down, we're still looking for the downside. But the setup has to favor our position, right? So if you use pivots, if you're using Fibonacci, Bollinger Bands, demand zones, whatever the case may be, each one of these are considered a divergence pullback. So we can take that trade and have the confidence in it, knowing that we can take this down to at least whatever target you use. So for me, I use Fibonacci. Some people use other things. I know Fred, one of our other coaches, he uses a lot of the supply and demand stuff. So if he has a supply zone, well, then that's probably where he's looking for it to go. So the flow index is obviously this white line here, and this is what's being calculated as all those trades are coming throughout the day. And as long as it's showing that heavy selling, well, then we can continue to look for downside movement on this. This was BA from, I want to say it was last week. Really nice trade. So if the flow index shows that continued selling and keeps making those lower lows, well, then the trade is intact, at least until your planned target, unless you're trying to take it to zero, which we don't want to get too absurd with things. But the main point here is that the algo will help you with the confidence to stay in that trade for the duration of the trade. I'm guilty of it as well. There's too many times where I get up to a 10-20% profit, and I'm just like, I'm good to go. I'm going to take it off there. Now, that was maybe my monetary target, but my overall target from the chart is my 1272 extension. So if we didn't get to that, I took the trade off too early. But this gives you that confidence to stay in it and take the whole move, get the entirety of that move for the day. So as you can see, I kind of pointed them out with these arrows here. Each one of these are a pullback to a zone. So of this zone here, we got the 618 right there. And then obviously we get to the 1272 extension. We start getting a little bit of chop going on, but then we come back here, and now we're at the 50% of this move. So I'm talking Fibonacci terms, and if you don't know Fibonacci, that's fine. If you do come with us to FlowTrade, then you'll absolutely learn about Fibonacci. And there's YouTube has a lot of good stuff on how to use Fibonacci as well. So we get the 50% pullback to this area, and now we have another divergence setup. So again, like I said in the beginning, just because the flow index is not on the downside of the equity rather, does not mean that it's not divergence. Essentially, the price is moving up while the algo is moving down. That's divergence still. So it does take some time to get used to, but we definitely help with that, and we're talking you through it. And of course, we're talking through our own trades as well. So just some more divergence setups that we get throughout the day. this was on INTU. So we had this nice little price drop here at around 10 o'clock, and we found some support here. I don't remember exactly what was holding this, but it came down, it found that support, and you see it starts to get a little weak as far as going to the downside. But at the same time, we have the algo still buying. So if we're showing that upside pressure, or rather no pressure, then we can look for this trade to trade out. And these ranges, you see that indicated by the red line here, those ranges will trade out nearly 100% of the time. In a back test that we've done, it's about 99.2% accurate. So we're pretty happy with that. And that's what we're looking for, is we're looking for those ranges to trade out. So again, on this second part, the first setup created a second setup. So they were still buying it. And then we got a nice pull up here on the flow index. And so we could look for this range to trade out. It found support roughly in the same spot. You could call that a double bottom. Whatever type of trading it is that you do, if you're a pattern trader, whatever the case is, you will find something there that's gonna give you some sort of support. And now we can take the trade with the confidence of knowing that this range is gonna trade out. So we're still managing the trade, of course, because that's what we do. As traders, we're managing risk. So we still have to do that, but we're just having that extra added confidence in order to stay in this. So once we get to about this point here, the flow index starts trading with price, but it's still trading to the upside. So at that point, we're still comfortable that we're doing the same exact thing that the big money is doing. Like I said, some people call it the smart money. We're still doing that same thing. So that's the key importance here. So another setup, this one's just to point out that you can use this to the upside and to the downside. Of course, that first one that I showed was to the downside for BA. This is another one for the downside to BA. And again, we're just getting heavy pressure to the downside on the flow index while price is moving up. So we're looking for those big major areas of resistance to start taking those puts or building a short position, whatever the case is. So we're looking for that to trade back down to this area. And of course, like I said, about 99.2% that it will do it. So we get this trade to trade out. And again, we get another setup built off the same move from the flow index. So this is, of course, over a 2-day span here. Again, I just want to reiterate that Fibonacci is not the only way to do it. In this case, each cycle gave us a potential entry for a short position off of the 618 and the 50% retracement. That doesn't mean that that's the only thing that will work. If you're a Bollinger Band trader, like I said, supply and demand, this works for all of that. So this is that fourth one that I was talking about. This is the trend divergence. This is over a long term. This one's more geared for the swing traders. So we look at those opportunities on a 15-minute chart using the same technique from the lower time frames, and we're just pairing divergence with major support and resistance. So if we're looking at this one that we just went over, if we're looking for major support here, or major resistance rather, so this is on a smaller time frame. So we're looking for that support on that time frame that could potentially give us a nice resistance level. On this one, we're looking at the big picture. So we're looking at a daily, we're looking at a weekly, so on and so forth. We want to see what's in the way, what might bring this down. And this one just so happens to be on XLE. So trend divergence is an extended form of divergence that moves through multiple cycles and can span several days as market makers quietly build or reduce their position ahead of a change in price trend. And again, I'm going to show you another one of these on BABA. I don't know if you guys trade BABA, but yesterday BABA got wrecked, and there's a big reason to why it did that, and I'll show you that here in a little while. So the next one is a continuation play. I actually took this trade, and it was great. So I want to point out first of all that this is a divergence setup. we have, and of course this one's real easy to spot because we do have the algo moving through price as opposed to it being on the opposite side of it and still giving us that downside move. But we did hit a major level here. And as soon as we did, I took a short on this little pop here. Once I took that little pop there, I knew I had an area that was defined. If we went back above it, I'm gonna cut the trade for a couple pennies as opposed to getting myself stuck in a position, which we see so often. I don't know if you guys look at Facebook and all that, but everybody's always talking about their losing positions and whatnot. And it's again, it goes back to being a trader is about managing risk. So that's how we manage the risk. And we also use the flow index as our confirmation. So in this case, the divergence traded out. And then once it got through that, we get a retest of where that divergence was. And once that retest happened, it just continued to move. Now, I use something called orbs, the opening range breakouts, which is Fibonacci based as well. And this so happened to go from the 127 of the opening range down to the negative 27.2 of the opening range. So that whole day essentially got traded out in this one continuation play here. So basically the point of this one is once we got through and hit that range that I was talking about on all the other divergence plays, the flow index never gave up. And in fact, it started selling even harder. So that downside pressure that's being created by all those dark pools, institutions, so on and so forth, that's helping us in this trade. So once we got to that point, they started putting the pressure on, and boom, we just started pushing down. Okay, and the last one that we'll talk about is the confirmation play. This one was on NVIDIA. Of course, NVIDIA hit like 460 maybe yesterday. And so this thing has just been a runaway train like a lot of these have been. So the same thing applies, just like everything else. Of course, you see I said we're finding support, right? So we're always checking the chart before we check the flow to see what's going on there. So the flow index created a higher high, and that gave us that idea of continued strength. So when we see something like that happen, even if, because me, I'm a turn catcher. That's what I try to do, is I try and catch the turns. So I'd put my trade on here and put my stop just below it. Now, if I get something like this to happen and the flow index creates that higher high, well, I know I'm golden. Otherwise, I'm just taking the trade off there, like I said, for a couple pennies versus getting smacked pretty hard. So the flow index started making the higher highs, and it just kept going for the rest of the day. Now, I didn't have a predetermined target for this, which was bad in my way of trading. I have to have a plan, and of course that's what we all talk about all the time, is having that plan. This one was kind of just yeah, I want to be a part of it kind of thing. But the flow index was telling me that, yep, I'm a part of it too. So it gave me that confirmation. It gave me that confidence to stay in this trade and ride it all the way as far as I could. So each one of these pullbacks here that I have indicated by the yellow arrows with the red lines, each one of those are potential entry. So long as the flow index is still giving us that upside move, then we're good to go. And we can stay in this trade until we either get to our planned target, or we're looking at the bigger picture and we see some major resistance coming up. Whatever the case is, that's how we're using this. So this is the one that's near and dear to my heart the most, the block trades and dark pools. I use this in my trading every single day. When the bell rings and we get those first initial block trades and dark pool trades that come through, I'm looking where they are and I'm plotting them straight onto my chart, because I want to know where my nearest support and resistance are. So the thing about block trades and dark pools is they do create market structure. And you can look back in time and see all these block trades that come for, and you will see all of the structure that they're creating. Now you got to understand, these people are putting in $50 million in one trade. So is that going to make the structure? Without a doubt. So not only do we have a scanner for this to find any ticker, whatever block trades you're looking for, whatever ticker it is that you're looking for, but we also plot them directly onto the charts. The thing about this is it gives me, especially when I'm looking at the algo to see what's going on, I want to see what else is in my way. Now, when I'm trading something, I'm always taking the block trade information and I'm putting it directly onto my platform, which I use TradeStation. So I put that information straight on there, and that way I can see it there, but also I can see on the charts for FlowTrade and see what the flow index is doing at the same time. Because if we start getting heavy movement to the upside on the algo, well, then that kind of gives me an idea that that was a buy on the blocks. Now, the unfortunate side of this is that no one can tell you if it was a buy or a sell when it comes to block trades. The thing about block trades is it's a trade. Somebody had to have sold it and somebody had to have bought it. That's just the way it works. And that goes with any trade, but these block trades in particular, because a lot of people will be hunting those to find those block trades and say, well, was this a buy or was this a sell? Well, it was a trade. Nobody knows. The only way that we can use it is by coupling the flow index with it. So like I say here, we also use the flow index in conjunction with the block and dark pool trades that print throughout the day, and especially in that first 30 minutes of the day, like I had said in the beginning. It's really important for that first 30 minutes because that's what's setting up the rest of the day, essentially. Once we come down to one of those areas and a block trade comes through, and then we see the flow index start moving up, well, in my opinion, I'm saying that's a buy. Now, the way I do it is I will throw my trade on there, and that will be my support. Wherever that block trade came through is my support, which I'm going to show you an example of that here on the next slide, actually. So this was Apple. This was the day, I believe, the day after their ER, or maybe 2 days later. Anyway, Apple had that massive ER beat, and they announced all that good news, like their splits and all that. Which, I mean, obviously that's a company in growth. That's a good thing. So why wouldn't it run up? So there was a dark pool trade that came through at 1425, 225 for those who don't use military time. 300,000 shares. That's a lot for that price at 412. So we had the ability to use that as a support level. So when that print came through, the flow index was still showing to the upside. So again, like I said, the way I do it is I look at that as that's a buy. So if I place my trade there at that 412.68 area or close, you know, I at least want to be within that zone to use that as my stop as well. Then I'm going to throw it on, and again, that's my stop. Otherwise, I'm staying in the trade as long as I possibly can. And that's how I do it in the yeah, definitely a buy, Tim. So I'm using that the first 30 minutes of the day, and then anytime they come through. Now, we've had questions, people saying, well, you know, are your dark pools real time? And like I said in the beginning, some of them do not come in real time. There is a 24-hour period where some of these dark pool trades are hidden or masked, however you want to use the term, for that 24-hour period. We get the most accurate and the most up-to-date dark pool trades that come through, and we do get a lot of them in real time. So the real-time trade that came through here at that 412.68, I never saw Apple trade at 412.68 until that point. So as far as I'm concerned, that's as real time as it gets. And the good thing is we're able to separate between dark pool and from a normal block trade. So that's what we do with the block trade stuff, and we're able to use those as our support or resistance. So this is the scanner I was talking about. So along with them showing up on the charts, this is the area that you can go and search for them individually. We do, like I said, we do put them on the chart so you have that info directly in front of you at all times. But if you want to go back and look at the historical block trades and dark pools that come through, that's definitely something you can do in here. You can search by the symbol, and then of course you can say if you just want to look at regular trades versus dark pool trades. And of course, you can look at 500,000 as share size or 1 million in share size. The way I do it myself is I keep it on all because I want to see all of that information. And I keep it on the lowest amount of settings that I can because I want to be able to see even the smallest trade. What we think is a big trade is small to these hedge funds, institutions, and these computers. And one of the things that I'll show you is on SPY, every single dark pool trade that comes through there is all within 100 shares of each other, the size of them, I should say. They're all within 100 shares of each other. And it's crazy because they'll come in at different fractional prices. And of course, if you know about fractional trading, that's what they do. So I will show you that when we actually get onto the platform. But for now, this is what it looks like on our scanner tool. So this is a video of Amazon. Of course, we record throughout the day because we want to be able to see what's going on, and we want to look back at it in case, for training type things. But recently we've added a tool to make that a lot easier, which is a replay function. So we can replay throughout the day of the previous 24 hours. And of course, when it comes to the coaching side of things, it makes our life a lot easier because when we're teaching people, they're always looking at it and they say, well, of course we can see the trade now because the day is over. And yeah, they're absolutely right. So we added that replay function so we can go through it candle by candle, whatever the case they need. We go through that and show them exactly what the flow is doing and what we're doing, more importantly, in order to take that trade and be confident in that trade. So I'm going to let this one play and I will talk through it as we go. It's very, very quick. We slim this down as much as we can. Like I said, I don't want to take too much of your Saturday away. So here we go. So right at the open, Amazon started selling off on the algo while the price started moving up. And we noticed some weakness that came in right there. So that was our entry. So we take that entry and now we're looking for this range to trade out across that yellow line there. That's the range I was talking about earlier. So we're confident in staying in this because the algo is not making higher highs. It's still down pretty hard from the initial drop down, and we can stay in this trade with confidence. So now we hit that area, we take the trade off, we're good to go. Now you can look to stay in some of these for that continuation, like I was talking about earlier. But in my opinion, that area was not as the algo wasn't showing as heavy downside pressure as I would like to look for when it comes to those. Okay, so the next video, this is on Roku. I've had a kind of a relationship with Roku lately. The moves they're not huge, but they pay really fast, especially when it comes to the option side of things. So I've been trading this one a lot lately, but I'm gonna let this one go as well, and I'll talk you through it. It's a quick one again. All right, so we get the movement up and we get the algo that starts showing that downside. So the pressure is there. There's that range that we're looking for. It trades out, and this is that continuation that I'm talking about. So as soon as it goes through and now it starts setting up another range and then another range and then another range. And that's how we're looking to find these plays. So a lot of people would get caught in that thinking that it's going to start moving back up, but the range is still there. So we're looking for that range to trade out. And again, we're roughly 99.2% with these divergent ranges of trading back out. So this is on SPY. This is an example of the continuation play outside of a divergence setup. Actually, this one is going to be the one that we saw in the earlier slides. So you can kind of see how this happened in real time, of course, sped up again. So we start getting that movement to the upside. And I'm sure a lot of SPY traders are getting caught up in this thinking, we're going to that 330 today. Well, we're looking at the flow index as our tool. So we're just looking for that major resistance area and weakness to start showing. And that's where we get it. So we get a retest of that area. That's your entry. Again, I told you I took that one and it was on that second pop, not the third pop. And I just stayed in this as long as I possibly could, knowing that that range is going to trade back out. And then I took mine off there and of course, boom, it just went straight through it. And I was telling you about the orbs, the opening range. That's the area that it ended up going to. Actually, a penny over it, if I remember right. All right, so we're going to get into the platform itself. And this is what the platform looks like. Can everybody see that? Just a Y or an N if you can't. Awesome, awesome. All right, great. So this is the main page on FlowTrade, and what we have here is the ability to have either the 4 charts, or we can have one. If you're one of those guys that just are gals that trade only SPY, you can have just SPY up. But that's the great thing about this is we can have that. Additionally, you can pop out up to, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, up to 8 additional charts. So you can, if you have the real estate for it, by all means, have as many open as you want. So we have quite a few tools on here. Again, like I said, we do have the replay function that we just added recently, which again is just a great tool to have. When you click on this one, it will post it to the chat room. So again, if you're looking at something and you want everyone else to see it, and you want somebody to give you a confirmation, is this divergence? That's the way to do it, and we'll be able to see it. But the key thing I wanted to point out on this, and I'm going to go to a single chart layout on this. I was talking about that trend divergence that we look for. Again, we look for it on that 15-minute chart. And this is exactly what we were talking about here. We're getting that downside move on the flow index since July 20th at least. And so we can start looking for ranges to trade out. So this range here trades out. This range here trades out. And we start getting bigger ranges coming in. So this is a huge range. So we get all the way from around 249-ish, 248 to 266-ish. And then that entirety of the range trades out within 2-3 days. So that's that trend divergence that we're talking about. That's one of the things that we are absolutely looking for. Yeah. Okay, so that pretty much sums up the flow index side of things. There are some other little nuances in here that you can play with. Changing the time frames. If you want to look at dark pools only, or if you want to look at both, I keep it on normal. It seems to give me the best opportunity for myself. One other thing, I did say that we plot the block trades straight onto the chart, and this is what it looks like. So it does kind of get a little bit blurry sometimes, but you can see that these areas are just creating those support and resistance zones. So obviously you can take that off if you don't want to see it all the time, and it will affect all of the charts at once. You can change the coloring of whatever suits your eyes or whatever suits your needs. You can do all that. So this is the block trade section, and there is one thing I want to hit up on this. Our option flow is being upgraded. We're adding some new stuff to it, as well as there's some updates that CBOE is requiring. So we are trying to make sure that we are in line with everything that's going on. So that will be back up soon. We don't have a definitive day of when that's going to be up, but it should be back up soon. But this is the one, again, like I said, block trades are near and dear to my heart. So I wanted to show you guys SPY because it's crazy how these computers or institutions or whatever the case are all trading these same sizes each time. So this one came through for 251 with 36, right? We get another one here, another one here, another one here, and it just keeps going this way. You'll see these trades come through again, like I said, at fractional prices. So if this one in particular got it at 334.32, well, this one may not have got it at 334.32. It may be like 334.32.1 or 332. It's amazing to watch. The other thing is when you see they double up on it, 502. So you'll see those come across a lot. It's just one of those things. To me, it's really cool to see when especially on SPY, when they come through and you can see all of them coming in at the same exact price and the same amount of shares. It's just super cool to me. So one more thing is our educational section. We do have an education section that's at your own pace kind of thing. So it's definitely encouraged to go through here and look at everything that it has to offer by all means. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this portion of it. And I know Fred and Dan and Mike have all been getting the questions, but if they can get on voice with me and we can go through any questions that you guys have together, that would be excellent. Mike, Dan, Fred?
I'm here.
Okay. So I want to open the floor to any of the viewers. If they have questions, I want to make sure we address all of them. So go ahead, whatever questions you have, by all means.
Yeah, I can start by quickly answering the question by Stayed Up Too Late. He was asking, are the ranges mapped out for you in the index? For example, will a bar pop up and let you know where to sell? The flow index was not meant as a buy and sell indicator. Some people may hit that range and want to see if there's a continuation. So we don't currently have any indication of the divergence itself. It's still something that you have to manually see in the charts.
How do you spot if a block trade? How do you spot if the block trade are buy or sell? Okay, so I'm going to go back to the slide to answer this one. Actually, you know what? We'll do it right here on the platform. So again, this one's messy, so I do want to try and keep it as relevant as possible. So 8.7, that was yesterday. Okay, so here at 8.7, I don't know if you can see that. I know it's kind of, let me go to a big time frame. And now I lost where it was. Oh, 8.7 right here. Okay, so we get this trade. This was 5 minutes after the open rather, at 257.11. So now we're looking at 257.11 as our way to say either that's going to be our support or that's going to become our resistance. So we don't necessarily have to take it right out of the gate, but we do get a nice spike up as soon as it happens on the index. So we can look at that as being a buy. However, we immediately turn around because we have all of these again, all of these other resistance areas. Now, of course, some of these aren't relevant, and we do plot 100 at a time on here. So because Baba's been trading in this range for so long at this point, it is going to show it. And I'm looking at a 15 minute, so this will be a little cleaner. Here we go. Okay, so there's that 257.11. This is our area for support or resistance. So as soon as that trade comes through, which was 5 minutes after the open, we get this massive move on the flow index. So now we can start looking at that area as our resistance area, as well as whatever other stuff that we're looking for on our charts themselves. Now, if you were to take this trade, we do get a bounce at some old block trades because you got, again, these are big block trades. But we start getting a sort of divergence setup, and then we get a lot of selling. And it kind of looks like it's trading with price at this point, which is very common. It does happen a lot. But it just gives us another opportunity to get another short position and take it down for the rest of the day. And we also start building all these divergent ranges throughout the day, and it just giving us tons of opportunity. Yesterday, this one I got in here, 254-ish, and took it down to about that 250 area. Not because I didn't think it had more room left in it. I actually thought 242, I believe, is coming soon. So, but the point is that I did use these areas as my my resistance to take it. Does that answer the question that you had, stock 2? Okay, great. Can you explain what the lines are again? Are you referring to the blue and gold lines, Mitchell? Okay, so the blue and gold lines, again, these are our block trades that we plot on the chart directly for you. It's the same thing that you'll find in here if you go to Baba. The same information. It's just plotted directly onto the chart, so that way you don't have to keep going back and forth in order to find all of them. Of course, like I said, I take all of these, especially if they're new or I hadn't traded it in a couple of days. I go back and I find all the ones that I hadn't put on my specific platform, which is TradeStation, and I add it to that just so I can see it directly on my charting platform. The crossover is a divergence signal, correct? Then you watch the algo line for confirmation of direction. Am I understanding that correctly? So the crossover is, Mike, did you already answer this or?
No, but I can take that. That's not a problem.
Sure,
So
go ahead.
keep in mind, and this was one of the first things that Bruce said, was that even though they're plotted on the same chart, that the scale that the flow index is on is not the same scale as price. Matter of fact, really, you could take the flow index and have it as a sub indicator, just so people don't have that confusion. But we wanted it on the same chart so that the divergence is much cleaner, much more visible, because that's really what you're looking for. Is the price going in the same direction as the algo index, or are they going in opposite directions? That's really what you're looking for when you're talking divergence.
A crossover example. So this would be a crossover example, Mitchell, where the algo moves through price. Now, is this a divergence setup? Yeah, absolutely.
But the fact that they crossed each other is completely coincidental.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, it's not on the same scale, so we can't look at it like that. Now, it
Matter of
is
fact,
divergence. Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, Bruce, I was just going to say, and you could kind of demonstrate that if you zoom in and out, because you'll see that they will move independently.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you see it'll scale itself because it has to be on a different scale. So right here, it looks like it's trading with price. So the closer we get into it, the better of an understanding we can see, is that divergence or not? Now, trend wise, yes, that is divergence. Are we putting in a new high? Yes. So this move here is starting to move up now. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, John, that's one of the things that people have the hardest time understanding, is seeing the price cross. But that's what we're here to do, is to help out with that. Mitchell, how many screens? What is your setup? So me personally, I have 7 screens. Now, that's not because of FlowTrade or anything like that. I'm just one of those people that when I only look at one ticker at a time, by the way. But I have it on so many different time frames because I want to see all those areas, like I was talking about when we're looking for that trend divergence being on a major time frame and looking for that major resistance or support. I just want to see everything that's going on. So this Baba example browser, would you trade that? Are you referring to taking it to the downside, Mitchell? What would I do? So this was a Friday. I generally don't trade after about 2 o'clock on Fridays. Not because I'm bored or whatever. I do it because I never know what's going to happen on a Friday afternoon. A lot of these guys. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I'm Central Time. So I don't trade after 3 o'clock Eastern, because I never know what's going to happen in that last hour of trading, regardless of what my setups show me, whatever the case is. There's a lot of programs that start running at those times, especially in that last 10 minutes. That just kind of gives me the creeps, if that makes sense. So I do my best to manage my risk and stay out of it in that last at least hour of trading. But for this example, again, being as it was a Friday, I wouldn't have taken it. But with that divergence to the downside that it initially shows, that kind of starts really, really, you could call that right there. I would be looking for a short. Now, would I get into a short? That's a different story. But as soon as we start getting this movement here, like I said, especially that last 10 minutes, things get a little crazy. So I tend not to trade it, especially with those programs running. Does that answer your question, Mitchell? I know that's kind of one of those, well, that's his thing, what about me thing.
Yeah, I think a more generic answer to the question is he would be looking now, once you see that divergence, now you're looking for areas of resistance to take that rejection, and that's where you would take the trade from.
If it had been Monday, I would have been looking for a short. Absolutely.
Matter of
Yeah, you
fact,
got
if
it,
it still
Jeffrey.
looks good on Monday, I might look for that short.
Yeah, come Monday. I'm still inclined to think that Baba's going to go to 242. Now, take it for what you will. That's just the area that I see it going to. I did have a historical line at 248.18, I believe, and I was like, man, maybe it'll go to that. And I took my trade off really, really early, as I often do, and it ended up hitting that 248.18. So I was a little heartbroken because I took it off, almost $3 from that point, but. You keep newsfeed up. Yeah, so I do like to see what's going on, especially when there's something new that comes out. There was the that Beirut explosion that happened the other day. That came through, and so that kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies, because I was in a long position at the time. So I kind of got a little nervous, like, oh man, are we going to war? I'm probably not in the right equity for this, but of course, that's just kind of how it goes. Secret sauce, yeah. So the secret sauce, that's I think that's Andy's thing. He calls it the secret sauce. Can you point out the training and where I could get started better understand the flow index and how to read it? So Jeremy, one of the things that we do within that first week that you're in FlowTrade is we do an onboarding session. So we cover this in greater detail in order to make sure that you're effectively reading it and being able to trade with it. Mitchell, there is zero lag time in the algo. It's just candle by candle, and these are all 1 minute candles, unless you change it to a 2 minute. But you will see the algo fluctuating as time goes.
Yeah, we basically get a fire hose of data directly from the exchanges, NASDAQ and the NYSE/ARCA. And so we filter it all live, and it's all printing live as the market data is coming in.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey.
Can we just do a quick little sneak peek about the scan section that is constantly being
Oh,
updated?
yeah. So there's updates coming fairly soon that is going to clean this up a little bit so it's easier to find. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't see the scans. So up here in the top left, there's a little tiny arrow that you can pop over. You can build your watch list on there. Again, like I told you, I have a relationship with stocks, and I tend to marry them. As all these guys will tell you, it's all about actually recently BA, Nvidia, Roku. Those are my babies. So you have the watch list here that you can build, and then we also have the scans. So these scans are built over how long would you say we took to build these and back test all these, Mike? I'll let you talk this piece.
Well, I don't know. Some of them go back several years.
Right.
Some of them were put in, like there's a section on harmonics, and so for people that are familiar with harmonic patterns, we put in an area that talks about the setup of those for people that want to trade those. We also have a section around Keltner channels, because Keltner channels are a pretty common support and resistance type of indicator that people will use. And so when you're looking for those zones that you could be potentially getting rejections off of when you're seeing divergence, we've got some in there for more of the upper ranges. You might be able to do some day trading around it with the 4-hour Keltner channels to get some trend in there. And then the daily, weekly, monthlies are really more for swing trades. I could tell you personally, I use these pretty extensively. That XLE sample that we were showing earlier, that gave us, we had signs that we were going to get, we had trend divergence where the price was coming down, and it looked like market makers were starting to quietly buy up shares just before the price came up. Once we got a rejection of the bottom of the 4-hour Keltner channels, XLE ran back up. And I can tell you in 2 days, XLE ran about 5% of the stock price. Now, personally, I trade options, and a 5% stock price move over 2 days translates into some pretty hefty gains on options. Well, that's one of the ways that we're using these scans.
So Mitchell, I'm running through this as you see with the screen share. I just ran QQQ, TLT, and I'll do GLD real fast. But yeah, so we have access to every ticker that you can find. I saw somebody asked a question about the like penny. I think they said penny stocks or something like that. We do have those. We give a low liquidity warning on those because you know, a lot of those are just kind of one of those momentum kind of trades that you want to look for, as opposed to you know, having a full day trade on it. So you know, it's kind of one of those pick your poison sort of things. Is it subscription based or flat rate? So we do have a subscription. And we also have a yearly rate. Of course, the yearly rate's going to be cheaper in the long run, but yeah, we do. But and like Fred is talking about right there, everyone who joins gets 7 days for free, and give the chance to do the onboarding. And like I said, we go more in detail in it. So if there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Now, if you are with Bullish Bears or with Mighty Soldiers, by all means, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. They do get updated on this stuff as much as possible. So any information that we have, they're going to know that stuff as well. Otherwise, this is our contact information. Oh, Magic Mike. I'm sorry, I didn't even see you were in here. Yeah, Magic. That's why I didn't say you, because I didn't know you were in here. Yeah, Magic Mike as well. If you're with Magic Mike, by all means, give him any of your questions outside of us. But we're FlowTrade. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Otherwise, that's our email and our phone number. You can go to flowtrade.com/trial and check it out and see if you have any need for it. I mean, it's a I don't trade without it anymore, to be honest. Yeah, absolutely, guys and gals. All right, if there's no more questions, hey, I appreciate you guys coming out. I said about an hour, and I feel like I didn't lie, so that's awesome. All right, everybody, take care. Thanks for coming.